In 2026, money moves at the speed of trust, not at the speed at which you can acquire attention. And there's only one mechanism that can allow you to create trust, compressed trust that would normally take you 6 to 12 months and have it happen in 90 minutes. And that is a webinar. I leveraged my first webinar when I was stuck at $80,000 a month. 30 days later, I was doing 180 grand a month. A few months later, I did it again, went from 100K per month in cash collected to 300K per month. The following month, I did it again, did 350K per month. The month after, I did $580,000 a month in cash collected. And today, I'd like to break down why webinars work so well.
I believe you should delete your existing funnel and go all in on doing webinars. This is coming from someone who's made well over $50 million in cash collected from doing webinars. And I recently realized that I've gone so deep into AI that I haven't actually been sharing the playbooks around scaling existing companies where you have product market fit, you know how to generate leads, you've been able to close, and you're doing 30K, 50K, all the way to 100K per month, but you've just been stuck because you haven't found a way to predictably and consistently put $1 in and make $5 back, whether that be money or time, effort. You just have noticed that if you had to double, triple, 5x your business or even 10x it, it would require so much of you, so much resources, so much money that you would actually not be profitable at scale. So you've just stay essentially small. You're afraid to invest. You're afraid to go for everything. Well, I want to help you realize that you don't have to stay small because other people are making millions of dollars a month running this playbook. So why shouldn't you? So the first video that I'd like to make in this series is about why. Why are webinars so freaking good? And the thing that also pissing me off right now is a lot of people are yapping about webinars. They've not made more than 50K per month, and they're framing themselves as like the webinar gurus and webinar goats. Okay. So I'd like to, for me, I want to actually break down from first principles why webinars work, and in future videos I'm actually going to share more deeper on the whole back end and the whole setup and all that good stuff, right? So let's start with why webinars. The number one thing you have to understand is this one thing. Besides the fact that the industry has changed, but I'm going to get to that, but you have to learn this one thing, that is cash conversion cycle, right? Which essentially means if I put in $1 today, how soon do I make it back, right? If your business has a cash conversion cycle of 6 months, you're not going to want to put all the dollars you have, all the little money you have left in your bank account. You're not going to invest it today because you have to wait 6 months to make that money back and then some profits, right? So everyone stays small. They're like, oh, but I'm not confident that I can put money in today. Content, build a content team, spend money on ads, and be like, hey, I'll put 100 grand in today and I'll make $1 million in return in the next 90 days or 6 months. Most people don't have the ability to actually control their cash conversion cycle, so they stay small. But what's currently impacting the cash conversion cycle? What's creating the lack of predictability when it comes to how much money you can invest and how much money you can get back? The first one is this: trust, economy, right? People no longer buy because you can do ads. People no longer buy because you can build an AI workflow. People no longer buy because you're a great real estate coach. People do not buy because you can play setter. They have 5, 10, 20 reels that they scroll through every 5 minutes or every 5 hours, whether that be on short form or even YouTube, of someone who's already placing setters, who's already building workflows, who's already doing the same thing that you're doing. So the level, the abundance of choice, of services, of products is unreal. So if the customer has choices, guess who they're going to choose to do business with? The person they like. Not the person who like spends the most money on ads. No. The person who they spend the most time with, the person that they end up being like, you know what, this person is actually cool. I would actually give them money even if I don't believe that they can actually help me. They just doesn't matter, right? So that has changed. The next thing is the old funnels don't solve this problem. The old funnels, right? Think of like VSL funnels, application funnels, et cetera, et cetera. They were all built around this narrative of an unsophisticated market. A market that, okay, they see an offer, they click an ad, they apply, and then they book a call, right? And the thing that is sad today is the people running these funnels are coming on YouTube, they're coming online and saying they're making $3 million a month, $5 million a month, leveraging these funnels. But what they're not telling you is that they're just breaking even on the front end, right? So their advice, if you follow it and hear someone say, oh, I spent $1 million a month on ads and I made $3 million back, you should ask them, how profitable were the $1 million you spent on ads? What was the return on ad spend? What they will tell you is it was either losing money or breaking even. And here's why it doesn't make sense for you to model after these funnels, is because if you're doing 30K to 100K per month, okay, you probably only have one offer. You don't have an infrastructure that allows you to say, hey, I'm going to create a product which is going to be a loss leader. I'm going to sell it and make no money on the front end. I'm going to burn money on ads. I'm going to hire a big content team. I'm going to hire UGC creators. I'm just going to create 500, 800, 1,000 ads, and I'm just going to burn capital on these ads. And then I just hope to break even on the front end. Well, that's not going to work for you. Because for them, the reason why it works is because they spent 10K, 5K to acquire a customer, and they break even on the first payment, and then they have other things to sell them. And this playbook works well if you're already doing 5 to 10 mil a year. Funny enough, the way you scale past 8 figures a year is not through more marketing. It's from making more money from the customer. Any business who thinks that they scale because they spend more money on marketing, that's not how you grow. That's not how you grow. That's not how you grow. And I think Hormozy has started talking about this idea of like, you don't scale from getting more leads, getting more appointments, getting more customer. You actually scale by never losing the customer, which means make more money from the customer you already have, right? So it's important to understand that the path from 0 to 100K, from 100K to $1 million, is not the same thing as $1 million to 10 million or 10 million to 25 to 30 million or 35 to 100 million. You have to understand that strategies do not apply. So you have to ask yourself, for where I'm at today, how do I go from 30K, 50K a month to doing $500,000 a month, right? The way you do that is by solving your biggest problem, which is how fast you make your money back, okay? And the other thing too that you have to understand about these funnels is that leads opt in, right? And you'd assume that you're going to get them to book a call on your VSL. They're not going to watch the VSL. They've seen it countless times. So they're not going to watch the VSL. I think Daniel Ilias removed his VSL because people don't watch VSLs. Like, people don't watch VSL. They've seen it countless times. They're not going to watch it, right? But if they're not watching a VSL and booking themselves, then you're going to need setters. You're going to need an infrastructure, right? And you're also going to need closers. Well, how many times do you think your leads have gone through this funnel? Do you think you're the first person to walk them through this? Of course not. They've seen the ads, they've seen the CTAs, they've seen the VSL, they've spoken with a setter, and they've definitely spoken with a closer who probably have burned them. They've been burned 5-10 times over. So the market has become sophisticated. So sophisticated that I'm in the Montreal market, and even in the French market, they're doing the same playbook as the English market. The reason why I use the French market as to just showcase how sophisticated the market has become is because normally the French market is like 10 years behind. So when the French market, especially in Quebec, starts running the same playbook for high ticket online service business, I know that then the English market is so cooked, right? So what is the way around this? Well, you have to ask yourself, what is the funnel that you can run that respects the fact that We are in a sophisticated market. People are not stupid. People are not idiots. Start respecting them, okay? Respect the fact that it's a sophisticated market, but then also respect the fact that you're not that special. So if you want people to trust you with their money, earn their trust, okay? Nothing that earns trust than having someone spend 2 hours with you. And not just once. They can spend the same 2 hours multiple times, right? Whenever I do webinars, I don't have people just show up on one webinar. They show up on 3. I'm like, what's going on? You've already seen the material. But what happens with webinars and workshops is that because they're long training, kind of like you say something. I think Hormozis likes to say this, like people need to be like, they need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. So it's like the best forcing function mechanism to get people to remind why they should change and why they should actually trust you and why they should do business with you. Okay? That's one. So it just solves this trust factor like none other. There's also another thing with the fact that we're in the content creator economy. These algorithms have gone so good that they're going to give reach for free. If you post content on shorts, people are going to then, start, the algorithm is going to distribute it to people, right? And what this has done is that it has created an incentive for people to flood the scroll. Okay? So for me, one of the reasons why I don't like this type of funnel here is because I'm just going to keep them on the same phone that they're distracted on. I'm going to keep them on Meta. I'm going to keep them on YouTube. I'm going to keep them on the websites where their phone is pinging left and right. I'm not going to be able to own their attention long enough for me to be able to convey a message. Hardest part right now is capturing and owning attention, even for more than 5 seconds, for you to even be able to give value to someone. So everyone who keeps on just staying on this on the scroll, you either flood the scroll yourself, like everyone is doing, post 5-10 times a day, start clipping, clip farming. You should do that, right? I'm trying to learn how to do shorts, right? I post every day. I don't care about volume. I have an idea. I'm going to flood it because that's the only way to win. But let's say you don't have the ability to have 5-10 pieces of content going out every single day. So what should you do? Well, you need to figure out a way to take that attention away from the place where the attention is the hardest to capture. And that's put hundreds of people in a single room on Zoom and get their attention. Get them to pay attention for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, right? And then the last piece that makes this cash conversion cycle work really well when it comes to webinars is that you get to build an offer that they can only purchase today. Number one thing that gets people to buy is urgency and scarcity. The number one lesson you'll ever learn about marketing. If I can teach you one thing about marketing, you want to make money fast? Stop giving more stuff. Stop trying to make the offer valuable. You can put a million things in an offer and people will still be like, okay, I'm going to think about it. You don't have time for people to think about it. You need to grow. You need to 10x. You need to bring your 12 months income and you need to do it in a single month. How do you do that? You have to literally pull future income and bring it to today. That means that you have to find a way to get the same leads that would normally buy over time to want to transact today. How do you do that? You make them feel like if they do not take advantage of the thing that you're giving them today, that they're going to lose. You actually remove things if they do not decide to buy today. So I'll give you guys an example. The reason, I'll show you guys the numbers right now. This is what a week without a Webby looks like, right? 5K here, 7K here, 2K here. So cool. 3K here, 3K here, 5K here, whatever, right? This is what it's, this, by the way, can be a 7-figure business. Like this, if you consistently are closing these high ticket clients, like this many a week consistently, 3 to 5, you're going to grow and scale. This is, by the way, this is good, right? And most people tend to just spend more money on such a funnel, right? But the problem is, this is the cash being collected. The amount of calls being booked is actually way more than this, right? So the amount of calls based on cash collected is not that great. The show up rate is not that good. It's not that sexy, right? 57%, 57%, 40%, 57%, 54%. And then there's like 2 days where it's like 83% and then 77%, right? And then cash per call, right? Cash per call scheduled and cash per call that shows up, right? $700 for each call that is scheduled. If you're spending $250 to book an appointment and you making $700 in each call that you schedule, essentially is worth $700 or $500 or $300, you don't have any margins. You don't have room to advertise. You will not have the courage to grow your business, right? So all metrics in an evergreen funnel is shit. And you can solve it by hiring more people. Hire more setters, build sales team, and hire a manager who then keeps them motivated all day, every day. But the likelihood that you're going to want to go do that is probably not high, right? But look at the difference here. $77,000 in a single day in cash collected, 73K in revenue, 37K for 50K in revenue, 80% show rate, 80% show rate, 87% show rate, 80%, 100% show rate, 100% show rate, 75% show rate, 86% show rate, 87% show rate, 100. What's the difference? What's the difference between this here? It's the same offer. Like, it's the same company. It's the same solution, right? But what's the difference that takes a call on average that shows up to be worth $500 to $1,000 to having them suddenly start being worth $3,000, $4,000, $4,000, $5,000? What's the difference? And have this crazy show rate? Is because of this one thing: urgency and scarcity. Create an offer, okay? And I'm going to give you guys quick sauce here. You create an offer where when you do webinars, of course, you give them value, they trust you, all that good stuff. But the number one thing that makes webinars rip so well is when you create an offer and then you add, let's say, bonuses, and you say, hey, keep the offer as simple as possible, but you add bonuses, and each bonus should be worth the cost of the program, service, system that you're setting up. Each bonus, right? So if I'm selling a $5,000 thing, I need 3 to 5 bonuses that are each worth $5,000, or at least the perception of them is worth $5,000 or $15,000, whichever is your price. And then you essentially make it clear that if you get this offer and you decide to buy today, then you're going to get these bonuses, and you make them worth the value. Each one should be worth the value of the program. But if you do not buy in this timeline that I specified, then you lose this here. I cannot tell you miracles that occur when you implement this process around building offers. The offer is not the thing that gets people to pay you. It's the risk of losing. People hate losing more than they hate winning. People will go, they'll go to an extent that the people will literally become superhuman when they want to avoid losing something that they already had an opportunity to have, or that they already have. This is why, even for our VSL, because it's not like we don't run VSL funnels, we run them. But the number one thing that we add to a sales script from a VSL funnel is, what is what are the 2-3 bonuses that once we've pitched the offer, once we've run through the entire sales script, that we can essentially use as an incentive to get them to buy today, that is worth $15,000. When we're selling a lot of these AI infrastructures into companies, we make it so that once we've pitched what we're going to do, the basic deliverables of the solution, we say, hey, by the way, if you sign up today, you also get this. But if you don't, you lose it. And that gets every client who's never closed a single thing in their entire career to start collecting $8,000, $15,000, not because they got better at sales, but because they just read their little Charlie Munger book about human misjudgments and understand psychology, and that people are more afraid to lose than they are, motivated by gain. So if I can literally summarize why webinars work, is because you get to create trust. You get to have a force, kind of like a forcing function, to spend essentially time with you, have people consume in a setting that you control. But the biggest reason is that you get to dictate when people do business with you. You get to control when someone is going to give you $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. But these other funnels, the likelihood of you having control and being able to create urgency and scarcity is non-existent. So if you have right now leads in your pipeline, let's say you have over 1,000 leads in your pipeline, you have been making 30K or 50K per month, and you know that the number one reason that that there is a way to get at least 5% of people in your CRM to buy this week or this month, instead of waiting for them to be like, I'm going to think about it, and you want to solve that. I'm going to be sharing the playbook for those that are established. You have to have 1,000 leads. You have to have, you already have to be making money, right? Everyone, I'm not talking to anyone who's doing less than 50K per month, to be honest, because I've already started getting a lot of people, running agencies, coaching offers in real estate, in a lot of different niches, DMing me. And if you're not doing 40K, 50K a month or more, and you already have 1,000 leads or more, and maybe you also don't do content, the likelihood of this working is probably low, because it does require for you to actually know what you're talking about. You cannot just go in front of hundreds of people and start talking about shit you don't understand. But if you know that you are an expert, and you know that with just 1 hour, with 1 day per week, you'd be willing to spend 2 hours to 3 hours on a Zoom, you're already spending that anyway on sales call, or you're spending that with your team. Why don't you spend 2 to 3 hours a week, bi-weekly, every week, or once a month, and 3x your sales? And what I mean by 3xing your sales, I literally mean 3xing your sales from 2 sessions a month. This wasn't the first time I did a webinar. This was actually my second time. But I literally went from $100,000 a month to $300,000 in cash collected. That's 3 times the income in cash collected in a 30-day timeline. All because I acquired the skill of being able to get people to transact with me sooner rather than later. It's not that I spent more money on ads. That's not the case. It's not that I did more content. It's not that I did anything. It's just that I controlled the setting through which they get value from me. I don't want you to watch 50 hours of content over the next 5 years. How about we spend 5 hours together? How about we spend 5 hours together this month? And how about I give you an offer that you cannot say no to today and get you to buy from me today? Why should we wait to change your life? Like, why should we wait to change our lives? If you're currently making $50,000 a month, if you're currently making $100,000 a month, why would it make sense to wait until next year to make triple the revenue? Why would it make sense to wait 5 years, 10 years to go from making $500,000 a year to making $500,000 a month? Like, you want to wait a decade to do it when it could be done sooner? That, by the way, is the number one decision that every single person has to make. For webinars to work, they're not easy. They're super hard. You have to actually be good. You have to be dialed the fuck in. But the number one reason why people become masters at this is because you make yourself a promise. You commit to the fact that you're tired of playing small. You're tired of just constantly just saying, oh, I've been stuck here, doing better than my environment, friends, you tell your friends that you make 50K per month, they're like, oh my god, this is so much money. You tell your parents, that your friends, your husband, your kids, they're like, wow, we're doing so well. Well, if you've been doing 50K per month for years, are you necessarily doing well? Yeah, you're doing somewhat okay, better than most people in society. But for your potential as an entrepreneur, as someone who plays this game of business, you're not actually getting any better. You're actually getting worse. You're failing at this game of business. Okay? So for me, the thing that I committed myself to doing is, once I saw that this works, I went all in. Like, when I say all in, I mean all the fuck in. I was like, I have this skill, I have this lever that I can pull. So why would I settle for 100K per month when I could make it every 24, 48 hours? Why should I settle? So you have to have urgency in your life to run this playbook. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, if you're like, hey, I want to just be cozy and I just want to slowly, drift through life, then this is not for you. But if you're someone who has urgency and you want to win today, I'd like to share with you the playbook.
And if you'd like to implement the same webinar infrastructure that's generated over $15 million in cash collected from my own business, then please click the link below. You can apply. I'm happy to speak with you one-on-one and audit your business, and then walk you through how we can replicate the same infrastructure in your business.